When I was only 12 years old, a nightmarish encounter unfolded that would forever haunt the deepest recesses of my mind. It was a night that began like any other, with the soft, lullaby-like whispers of the wind through the curtains of my room. The pale moonlight painted eerie patterns on the walls, casting elongated shadows that danced in the stillness of the night. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary night would leave me scarred for life. I had drifted into a deep slumber, cocooned in the comforting embrace of my blankets. Sometime past midnight, a peculiar sensation stirred me awake. My eyes reluctantly opened, adjusting to the dim, otherworldly glow that permeated my room. It was then that I saw it. A small child, seemingly no older than 5, kneeling next to my bed. In the half-light, the child appeared to be deep in prayer, their tiny hands clasped together, as if in reverence. My initial assumption was that it must be my younger brother, but as I glanced towards the open doorway to our shared room, I saw his familiar silhouette tucked soundly in his bed, oblivious to the surreal scene unfolding beside me. I couldn't help but mumble in a sleepy, confused tone. "What are you doing?" Expecting an innocent response from my little brother, I shifted slightly, squinting to get a better look at the mysterious intruder. But what happened next shattered my understanding of the world as I knew it. Slowly, ever so slowly, the child turned its head towards me. The faint moonlight now illuminated its visage, revealing a face that bore an unsettling and unnatural pallor. Those eyes, they were no eyes at all, just empty sockets that seemed to absorb what little light existed in the room. As I gasped in terror, the child abandoned its prayerful pose. Rising up with unnatural fluidity and without uttering a single word, it dashed towards the bedroom door. My heart pounded mercilessly as I bolted out of bed, determined to unravel the mystery behind this chilling apparition. The child, faster than any human could possibly be, scurried down the hallway, its small footsteps echoing with an eerie cadence. Desperation and a nameless dread fueled my pursuit, guiding me down the dimly lit stairs. Each step felt like a descent into madness as I chased the inexplicable specter through our seemingly endless house. The front door, my only escape from this waking nightmare, came into view. The child, now just a few feet away, reached out towards the door handle. My voice quivered as I shrieked, "Who are you? What do you want?" But my words fell on deaf ears, and with a final unsettling glance, the child twisted the doorknob. The door creaked open, and as I rushed forward to confront this mysterious intruder, an overwhelming sense of dread flooded over me. The child stepped out into the night, and just as its small form crossed the threshold of our home, it vanished into thin air, as if it were never there to begin with. I stood there, breathless, gazing out into the empty darkness beyond the door. The chill of that night was not just from the cold breeze, but from the inexplicable terror that had gripped me. My mind was a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and disbelief. I hesitantly stepped back into the house, my heart still racing, and slowly closed the front door. I knew then that I had witnessed something beyond the realm of the living, something that defied all rational explanation. Since that night, my sleep has been haunted by the memory of that child and the inexplicable event that unfolded in the darkness of my childhood home. It remains an unsolved enigma, a chilling tale that I share with trembling words and a shudder down my spine. The night I encountered that ghostly child will forever linger in the shadowed corners of my mind, a reminder that the boundary between the living and the unknown is far more tenuous than we dare to imagine. When I was 15 years old, an eerie and chilling experience unfolded in my life, casting a long shadow over my youthful innocence. It was a misty autumn afternoon, and my friend Sarah and I decided to go horseback riding in a vast, secluded field near her house. We were both eager to embrace the beauty of the countryside, but little did I know that this day would become etched in my memory like a haunting ghost story. As the horses trotted through the field, the The soft rustling of leaves and the rhythmic sound of hooves on the ground lulled me into a sense of calm. The world seemed peaceful and idyllic, but fate had a sinister twist in store for me. Suddenly, my horse, a magnificent chestnut mare named Bella, became spooked by something unseen. She reared up and, with a violent motion, threw me off her back. I hit the ground with a sickening thud, my head colliding with a rock. Pain surged through me like a malevolent force, and I struggled to maintain consciousness. When I finally came to, I was lying on my back, my body racked with agony. Sarah was crouched beside me, her face etched with sheer terror. Her panicked voice pierced through the haze of my pain. But it wasn't her voice that sent shivers down my spine. It was the man I saw standing behind her. He was an imposing figure, tall and thin, shrouded in a black suit that seemed to swallow the fading light of the day. His face was hidden beneath a grotesque, oversized hat that cast his features into deep shadow. What was most unsettling was the way he gazed at me. His eyes, cold and unrelenting, were fixed upon me with an intensity that sent chills racing down my spine. It was as if he was studying me, probing the depths of my very soul. My heart raced, and I tried to speak, but my voice was a mere whisper. Panic clawed at the edges of my consciousness as I realized that this man, this sinister stranger, was not supposed to be here. He didn't belong in this tranquil field, and his very presence felt like an omen of impending doom. Days passed, and I found myself confined to a sterile hospital room, my head wrapped in bandages. Sarah was my constant companion during those long hours of uncertainty and pain. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the room in an eerie half-light, I mustered the courage to broach the subject that had haunted my thoughts. I asked Sarah about the man I had seen that fateful day, thinking he might be her new boyfriend or a family member who'd come to our rescue. But her response sent a chill down my spine that rivaled the one I felt when I first laid eyes on him. Her eyes widened in confusion, and she shook her head slowly. "What man are you talking about? There was no one else there besides us." My blood ran cold. How could this be? I had seen him so clearly, standing there, his ominous presence casting a dark shadow over me. I was left with a gnawing sense of dread, unable to comprehend who this man was or why I had seen him. As the days turned into weeks and the memory of that sinister stranger continued to haunt my thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something beyond the realm of the living, something that defied explanation. In the heart of a remote, desolate town, nestled amidst endless fields that stretched out as far as the eye could see, stood my grandmother's house, an imposing structure that seemed plucked from the darkest corners of a horror story. This old white house bore the weight of countless years, its decrepit facade hiding the whispered secrets of generations, secrets shared only through the mournful creaking of its ancient boards and the unsettling rustling of the leaves that clung to its eerie silence. For as long as I can remember, I spent my summers in that peculiar house, often seeking refuge in a room tucked away on the top floor, far from the prying eyes of the world below. There was an unsettling atmosphere in that room, as though the very essence of time had forgotten it existed. It was within those walls that I first encountered the chilling presence that still haunts my dreams. The room was furnished with relics of a bygone era, antique furniture that had seen better days. In one corner, next to a grimy window that peered out onto the endless fields, sat a dilapidated wooden rocking chair. Its arms bore the scars of countless years of use, its seat faded and frayed. As a child, I was inexplicably drawn to it, and it was in the sinister embrace of that chair that the dark truth about my grandmother's house revealed itself to me. The rocking chair was no mere inanimate object. It possessed a life of its own. Every night, in the stillness of darkness, I could hear it creaking and groaning as though a restless spirit dwelled within. Its rhythmic sway was an ominous lullaby that danced on the precipice of my sanity. In the beginning, I dismissed it as mere noises of the old house, settling, but as days blurred into weeks and weeks melted into months, I became increasingly certain that something otherworldly inhabited that chair. Terrified beyond reason, I often roused my grandmother from her slumber in the dead of night, beseeching her to let me spend the night in her room. She tried to placate my fears by attributing the eerie movements of the chair to drafts that plagued the ancient house. Yet, no matter how much I wanted to believe her, I couldn't shake the overwhelming sensation that an evil presence lurked within that rocking chair. Years rolled on, and fate led me back to that same room, this time accompanied by my mother and aunt. We sat there, huddled together, discussing the sinister nature of my grandmother's house. It was during this conversation that my aunt disclosed a story that sent a spine-tingling shiver down my back, confirming my darkest suspicions. She spoke of her youth, of the time when she too had inhabited that eerie room. One fateful morning, she awoke to a sight that would haunt her for the rest of her days. The rocking chair, which had always been positioned by the window, was now inexplicably 2 feet closer to her bed. The air grew heavy with fear, and the room pulsated with an unearthly energy that defied explanation. As my aunt concluded her chilling narrative, an icy silence descended upon us, and our eyes were glazed with unspeakable horror. The once familiar rocking chair, once a symbol of nostalgia and comfort, had now transformed into an instrument of torment in the house of our most chilling nightmares. And as the night stretched on, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden within the shadows of that accursed house, lurking, waiting, and ready to reveal themselves when the time was right.